John here with our family follow-up video for Sunday, September the 18th, 2022. And this week in Sunday school, we looked at the gospel reading and focused on the parable of the shrewd or crooked servant or steward. And I got to tell you, this is a difficult parable. I had to do a ton of research on this thing. I read a number of different commentaries, a number of different translations, listened to some talks on it, even dusted off my Greek from seminary and got into the original language a little bit, trying to figure out what in the world does this parable mean? Because when you read it, first of all, it's hard to understand exactly what Jesus is trying to say. And then as you start to figure out and look closely at what he's saying, it does not sound like something Jesus would say. So what is this parable and how does it apply to us and particularly to our kids, right? What did we teach the kids in Sunday school? Well, the key point that we took away from this parable and taught the kids in Sunday school is this: that Jesus wants us to do everything we can do to live for God and make a positive difference in the world. Jesus wants us to do everything we can do to live for God and make a positive difference in the world. And that meaning from the parable will become clear as we walk through it. So let's take a moment and walk through the Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 9, and seek to understand where this point is coming from and how this is the point that Jesus is teaching. He also said to the disciples, "There was a rich man who had a steward, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his goods. And he called him and said to him, 'What is this I hear about you? Turn in the account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be steward.'" So there's a rich man, likely, ancient Near East. This man was a property owner, had animals, had crops, had land, and he had a man who was in charge of all this, right? Now, something that's important for us to understand is that back in this time, even more so than it is today, there was wealth inequality, right? So we think we have wealth inequality now. It is way worse 2,000 years ago in the Middle East. There's the vast majority of people are extremely poor, and then there's just a few people that have a lot of money. So this is one of those very rich people, and he has a manager who's taking care of his affairs. So this manager's got a pretty good gig. Unfortunately for the manager, he's made some bad choices, and apparently he has been misusing company funds, so to speak, and has been using them for his own expenses, right? And so he gets caught. Allegations are brought against him to the master, to the rich man, and the rich man calls in the steward and says, "Hey, I know you've been up to something that's not good. I'm going to fire you, and I want to see the books now." And so while all this is happening, after he walks out of the master's office, so to speak, the steward goes, "Oh my God." All right, so that's what we're going to read next. Remember, there's not many positions like this around. It's really hard to land on your feet because there's not that many wealthy people that you can work for in this capacity, right? So this guy, he's going to have a bit of a panic attack. "What shall I do, since my master is taking the stewardship away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg." So in verse 3, he's having a bit of a meltdown. He's like, "What am I going to do? Like, I have one of the best jobs around, and I'm about to lose it. I'm about to be fired, and I don't want to do manual labor. I'm not strong enough to do manual labor, and I don't want to beg for food. I've had this great job, and I don't want to beg. So what am I going to do?" Right? And so then he comes up with a plan. Verse 4, "I have decided what to do, so that people may receive me into their houses when I am put out of the stewardship." So he's not officially been fired yet, right? He knows he's about to be fired, but he's still in his role for the moment. And so he goes, "I know I'm about to be fired. What can I do to put myself in a good position?" And then he says, "Aha, I have a plan that will put other people in my debt. So they owe me a favor, other powerful people. So when I get fired from here, they'll give me a job in their household," right? So he's got a plan to not have to be manual labor, not have to beg. He's going to try to leapfrog from one wealthy household to another. And here's his plan. "So summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' He said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and write 50. Then he said to another, 'How much do you owe?' He said, 100 measures of wheat. He said to him, 'Take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest steward for his shrewdness." All right, we're going to stop there, right? We're going to stop in the middle of that verse. So here's what happens. He comes up with this plan to get other powerful people to owe him a favor. He calls in his master's debtors, right? So as a master and this rich landowner, he would have had business partnerships, people from whom he's buying grain and all those other things he heard listed. And so what he's doing is he calls in these people who owe his master money, and he says, all right, how much does my master owe you? And for all of them, he lowers the amount that they owe the master on their bills. Now, what is this all about? How is he able to do that? Well, this is something that's a little unclear, but several of the commentaries I read suggested this theory. In ancient Israel, it was illegal to charge interest to people. You couldn't charge interest on a debt. But oftentimes, because you couldn't charge interest, people would artificially inflate the price of a good, right? And so maybe the actual price of grain is, I don't know, $10 a pound. I have no idea. Let's just throw that out there, right? $10 a pound. And as a business person, you want to charge some interest because you want to make some more money. Well, the law says you can't charge interest. But if you raise that price to $15 a pound, then it's like you're getting a little more money, right? And so if you inflate the prices artificially, you're getting more money, and it's almost like you're charging interest, even though you're not. And so a lot of commentators suggest that what this dishonest or shrewd manager was doing is he was going out and he was actually just subtracting from the people's bills that price inflation, that sort of backhanded interest that the rich man, that the master had been charging people. And this was pretty clever, because if the master came out and said, whoa, 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 you can't just be lowering people's bills, he would be drawing attention to his inflated prices and his own underhanded business tactics, and then would be getting himself in trouble. Which is why at the end, the master is actually, he is one crook recognizing another crook, right? He's going, that was pretty underhanded move. I kind of like that, right? You can tell we're not dealing with good people here, right? And so the master, the rich man, is going, yeah, I respect that. That was pretty devious. And so what's happened here is, a battle of wits and two shrewd people acting immorally to advance their situation. And so the manager ends up, earning favor with people. Who knows if he gets rehired by the master? Who knows if if his plan fully works and he gets brought into another one of these wealthy households? That's not the point, right? But that's sort of the situation that's unfolding. What a weird parable. Jesus is talking about a parable with just morally reprehensible people all around, shady business deals. What in the world is he trying to teach? Okay. Jesus is about to explain the parable. The explanation, at least as rendered in our language, in our cultural context, does not make a lot of sense. I'm going to read it for us, and I'm going to try to break down what it really means for us. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous mammon or money, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal habitations. Now, to break that down in a more word by word or phrase by phrase way, so that we could arrive at what I believe is the point, would take a long time. I've done a lot of study on this, and we could break it down. Ask me, we could talk about it if you have questions. Essentially, after a lot of study, what I believe Jesus is saying here is he is commending the shrewd servant or crooked servant's intensity and focus. Jesus is saying, listen, this shrewd servant, his back is against the wall, and he is using every resource, every relationship, he's pulling every lever to make a better life for himself. He's using his wits, he's using his relationships, he's using his energy, his focus. He is focused and intense on improving his station in life. And Jesus wants us to have a similar demeanor toward serving him and building the kingdom of God on earth. Now, to be clear, he does not want us to do anything underhanded, right? He doesn't want us to do things that are illegal and dishonest and all the rest of it. So you can push that to the side. Remember, parables are not allegories. They're intended to convey one main point. And the main point here is that Jesus wants us to look at serving God and building the kingdom of God with the same level of intensity and focus and single-mindedness that the shrewd servant had when his back was against the wall. So Jesus wants us to use every bit of our wits, every relationship, everything that is at our disposal, every resource we have to say, how can I build the kingdom of God? Right? Just like when the shrewd servant was back against the wall, thinking, I'm going to use every relationship, every resource, every bit of cunning I have to better my station. Jesus wants Christians to say, I'm going to use every bit of my wits, every bit of my cunning, every ability God has given me, every resource, every relationship to advance the kingdom, but not using underhanded means, right? Doing it the right way. And so that's why our key point for this week is that Jesus wants us to do everything we can to live for God and make a positive difference in the world, right? And so what we encourage the kids to do is to think about a habit they can form in their life that would help them more faithfully live for God, right? And so, maybe it's reading their Bible each night. Maybe it's using some of their allowance to, save up to bless other people or to buy a gift for their sibling, or maybe it's, helping mom and dad with the chores more, whatever it is. We encourage them to think about one habit they can build that would allow them to more fully and faithfully serve God in their lives. All right, so that's our family follow-up video for this week. It's an important lesson for all of us, myself included, to have that sense of urgency and focus in serving God and building the kingdom. I pray that the Lord would work in all of us and show our kids and us as parents how we can do that and live for God more fully. Again, I commend to you the rest of the family discipleship plan that we're sending home with your kiddos after Sunday school. Go through that. I encourage you to do those family devotionals with the kids. I know it's a lot of time, and it's hard after a long day at work, and you're just trying to get kids to bed so they can get to school the next day. But hey, the discipleship of our kids is so important. That's what we're here to do, we're here to raise up our kids to know and love the Lord. So let's get after it, guys. Have a blessed week. We'll see you soon.